Chris Mannix, host of the Chris Mannix Show, weekday afternoons on NBC Sports Radio, the 24-hour Sports Talk Network. Download the app, subscribe to the Mannix podcast. As Sixers at the break, the NBA at the break. Chris was in Boston last night for Sixers-Celtics, Chris. And I guess, first off, welcome back, pal. And you look at that game last night, it had to be a little bit of an oddity of what was going on with that Jahlil Okafor stuff that he magically reappeared in the Sixers lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a weird week or so. I mean, I've never seen a situation where a guy is basically DNP trade talks. I mean, you have guys held out because you have the framework of a deal in place, not because you're, sort of talking to teams across the league about him. But he's back, and who knows how long he's back for. I think the Sixers, it's pretty clear they want to move him, but they still kind of value him as I don't blame him for this, but they still kind of value him as a third overall pick. And if you talk to teams across the league about how they perceive Jahlil Okafor, they see kind of a role player and a rotation player, and not somebody that you would say is a franchise player. So I think there's a gap that between, and that's kind of an obvious statement, but I think there is a gap between what the Sixers want and what teams are willing to give up.
Chris, was it I don't know how much you were around the Sixers last night. I know, you do stuff with the Celtics, but was there a weird vibe around them? Was there a weird vibe around him, or was he kind of like, hey, you're back, and, until you're gone, you're here?
Yeah, it was kind of an aloofness at this point. It sort of is, kind of what it is. I mean, they know he's trying to be moved, and they've kind of accepted that. I think what makes it a little bit more relaxed is that Philadelphia is not struggling right now. They didn't win last night, but they've been playing some pretty good basketball, even without Joel Embiid in the lineup. So I think that made any tension that might have existed kind of dissipate to some degree. So. It's only, I think, only a matter of time at this point that until they find some kind of deal that works for Okafor, because keeping him around after the deadline, I just don't know how much sense that makes. I mean, I think there's going to be somebody out there willing to give them the draft considerations I think they're looking for to make an Okafor deal.
Chris Mannix, give me your opinion of the optics that the Sixers laid out this weekend. Starting with Jahlil Okafor not playing Saturday, and then obviously getting told he wasn't going to play because of the trade, and then not playing, followed by Joel Embiid dancing on the stage, to which the next day a report comes out that he has a meniscal tear that they never told anybody, and it goes back to January the 20th. I mean, you just talked about it. The team's playing well. There was some positive vibes. It looked like this team was being somewhat transparent. And then that, does Colangelo and the front office make the organization look bad in one fell swoop, or was it just like it was just a one thing mishap, and that you can't really look at the whole big picture based on that? But the optics don't look good the way they handled that weekend.
Yeah, I mean the underreporting or lack of reporting on the Embiid injury is a little bit shady, a little bit suspect, I guess you could say. And while the Okafor situation is weird, I mean, they are kind of well within their rights to do it. I mean, I think it's being overcautious to worry about like an Okafor injury before a deal, but, whatever. And the Embiid stuff, like him dancing on stage, like, who cares? I mean, I've had a partially torn meniscus before. I didn't even know I had it until, like, a doctor diagnosed it at that time. I mean, it's not he didn't tear his ACL and go up there and dance on stage and tear it even worse. I mean, to me, the critics of Embiid, if there are any out there, I mean, it's just a little bit too get off my lawn for me to some degree. I mean, the guy's a early 20s kid who's just trying to enjoy himself out there, and I have no problem as long as he produces on the court. He's been doing that at an extremely high level this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. The dancing doesn't do much for me. I guess the optics of a team that lost on purpose, quote unquote. There's a lot of people speculating that they've been holding him out because they've been winning too much. Is that an odd thing to say?
Yeah, I mean, because there are a lot of variables in the Sixers draft this upcoming year, as you know. I mean, they've got the swap rights potentially with Sacramento. I mean, the Lakers, if they fall outside the top three, that pick conveys to Philadelphia. So there's a lot of ways that Sacramento can get themselves a top 5-6 pick in this upcoming draft. And you've reached the stage with the Sixers that you've got to start winning and establishing a culture of winning. I mean, you lose a lot, and it takes its toll. Losing begets losing, and at some point you got to break these guys of bad habits. And I think Brett Brown's done an amazing job of keeping their kind of competitiveness going and their spirit up over these last couple of years. But now's the time where you got to start focusing on winning games. And even if you don't make the playoffs and you don't get as high a draft pick as maybe you want, you've got to keep the fight going because trying to win now, trying to get in the playoffs now, there will be a tangible benefit for that down the line because these guys will know what a playoff race feels like.
Yeah, Chris Mannix with us. I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think that NBA fans have somewhat accepted losing, like that they know that losing for many of these teams is actually more beneficial than winning?
I don't see how losing is more beneficial than winning.
What if you're the Lakers?
Oh, if you're the Lakers. oh, absolutely.
No, but in general, like there are fan bases out there that I think have accepted that, hey, being a 35-win team doesn't really do us any good. We'd rather just be a 10-win team.
Oh, the Lakers, they need that draft pick. I mean, that's the most important thing right now. They have to get that pick and draft themselves another star there because Brandon Ingram could turn into a star. I mean, that's possible, but the other guys, I don't see it. D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, these guys are maybe the ceiling probably is borderline all-star to me, which is pretty good, but I think you still need to find yourself a franchise player. I mean, the worst thing that happened to the Lakers is to have to convey that draft pick at number 4 or 5 to Philadelphia. That would be bad, to say the least, for LA. So, yeah, I mean, the way they're playing right now, I mean, I don't see them getting better anytime soon. So I think they're getting into that top 3 area. That is the best thing the Lakers can hope for in terms of their long-term health.
Chris Mannix, couple quickies. I want to get your thoughts on the boxing stuff that you talked about as well. First, the Ibaka trade. What'd you think?
I loved it for Toronto. I think that the Raptors badly needed a player in that power forward spot. Ibaka is a three-point shooter, shot 38% from three this year. He's only a couple of years removed from being maybe the best defensive power forward in the game, and I think he'll be reinvigorated going to Toronto and playing alongside winning players on a winning team. So I didn't think the cost was too high. I mean, Terrence Ross and a pick that's probably going to be in the mid-20s. That to me is more than fair for a guy that is not only going to help you this year, but at 27, and he's going to cost a lot of money, but at 27, you can add him to this core long term.
Chris Mannix also covers boxing. You can listen to his boxing podcast at Yahoo. Give me your take on this whole Mayweather-McGregor circus that has happened this week.
Well, from a reporter perspective, I can tell you there's nothing remotely close to being done. I mean, I checked in with the source that would be directly involved in any kind of deal, and I asked him what Floyd was talking about when he said the fight's close, and he said, well, it is close if close means you don't have a fighter deal, a deal with the UFC, and no TV deal whatsoever. So there's nothing to even report on this story, which Mayweather basically acknowledged after the fact. I mean, he's basically, playing, Lucy to our Charlie Brown and pulling the football away from us, every time we think that a fight's close. Even if it does happen, though, I don't want to see it. You're talking about two different sports. You're talking about a striker and a guy that's used to fighting 5 rounds in an octagon versus Floyd Mayweather, the best boxer of this generation, who can just cruise through 12 rounds almost effortlessly. So even if it did happen, this would be a completely one-sided fight that you would be wasting, $75 to $100 to buy on.
Get more on that at Yahoo Sports Boxing Podcast with Chris Mannix. And also check out the Mannix Podcast, The Vertical, host of the Chris Mannix Show, weekday afternoons on NBC Sports Radio. Chris Mannix here on the Sports Bash. Happy All-Star Weekend, Chris.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks.